Start.
Hey everyone, I'm Heidi Ferguson, and this is Fidesta Ramsey, and we are Cocktails and Pajamas. And tonight's episode is our 40th episode, and we're both very excited to be here and being on our fourth episode. And I wanted to share that when I did my daily gratitude today, the one thing that I wrote, of course, is grateful for this being our 40th episode, but also, that I'm really proud. Like, I'm proud that this is our 40th because it takes work to show up. It takes work to be committed to something and to say, okay, I'm gonna, I've made a commitment to this. I'm doing it, and so anyway, here we are, and welcome. So we're live on Facebook. Yay, it's working. I think it's working. Good. So, Foresta, how are you this evening? And yeah, tell me a little bit about what's been going on for you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for that sweet, warm welcome to everyone and just sort of this beautiful space of remembering like this is like legit awesome commitment level, you
Yeah.
know, next level unlocked, like 40th episode from and within a pandemic, right? Just holding, I don't know, the beautiful memory of how this was birthed, right? This, you kind of going, I think I need some support, and maybe you need some support. And would you like to, like, every 2 weeks, just connect? And I remember just feeling so, like, chosen, so touched that you would want to have that experience and that communion with me. And then slowly it became like, let's meet every week because it felt like a year worth of things happened in a week. And then we started doing this live, and maybe we weren't even recording it at first. Is that possible?
It is possible. We weren't recording it at first. I know. I know. We weren't. And then, as time went on, it was only a few weeks, and I was just like, this content is really good. What we talk about is important. It's important to us. And I also really believed in my heart that other people would find it interesting too. And the way that we are authentic with each other, I just thought, I think people need to see more of that in the world.
I'm with you. I mean, you've modeled it so well, and I've certainly leaned into a little bit more authenticity and a little bit less mask, and it feels really good. I have to thank you for that because I think our strategies keep us safe, but removing our strategies gets us connected, and that's such a wonderful gift of this time with you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for saying that. So, um, I think I'm going to backtrack a little bit and just talk a little bit about last week. So, going into last week's episode, Fidesta and I had a little powwow a few minutes beforehand, and I was feeling very much in a vulnerable state. And I said to Fidesta before we began recording, I just said, look, I don't know how deep I'm going to go, but I'm feeling really vulnerable. And so I'm coming to you to ask for support and to match me in the vulnerability. And she's like, well, I don't know what that really looks like or what that will feel like. And I said, I'm going to trust that you know what that is. Like, I just simply trust that you get what I mean when I say those words. And you did. And you showed up. And I was just like, yeah, and I have to say, there wasn't a moment during that podcast, during the conversation, where I was like, am I too, like, am I being too much? Am I at, I just felt like it was very, um, I thought it was smooth, and I thought it was very well balanced. And so, I guess the reason I'm mentioning this is because it's taken me a long time, in my relationships with people to really feel safe enough to ask for what I want and to ask for support, because that takes courage to show up for oneself and to really um, speak authentically for oneself. Because I think a lot of times, I will speak for myself. In the past, I have done things sideways, a little crunchy, and I'm like, that doesn't even feel good to me. And I'm like, damn it, no, I know what I need, and that was really clear to me, to be clear, like to very visibly know what I needed for myself. And then I kind of sat back and I was like, okay, so how do I ask for this? And the words came very clearly. I was like, okay, so it's not that hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah. I'm curious. I have a follow-up question to that, which is, when I asked you that, I'm curious how that felt, or how that landed on you when I asked.
Yeah, I can own this is totally my side of the street. And when you asked that, there was that part of me that's like, oh my God, I want to come through for you. I want to show up and come through. And then, like, oh my God, what if I don't? What's the fallout if I don't? Like, that's what I kind of brought to you, is like, well, what if you're in a super vulnerable place and I'm kind of chill today? Then, like, what, what if I'm not matching you? Like, is there going to be fallout there? Right? That was my initial concern. Like, that was my
Mm,
inner challenge of like, if I don't come through, is there loss? Is there risking this connection? And I think it was so soothing when you said, I trust that you'll know how to do that. Versus like, I'm asking you to do something you have no idea how to do.
yeah.
It felt like an invitation, and it felt like encouragement to join, which I think is the best kind of invitation. Um, and I just noticed my own stuff, right? Around, if I don't do it right, am I gonna lose connection? So it was an interesting place to be challenged, because I knew what you were asking for, and I actually needed that reassurance that you trusted me.
Mm,
That makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, it does make sense.
And
Thank
that we
you.
were okay. We were gonna be okay, however,
Re-
it unfolds.
Regardless.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
just getting the energy of like, that's the best kind of invitation. Hey, here's
Hmm.
what I need, and I trust you, and we're gonna be fine.
Hmm.
Somehow that helps me a lot. Like, it helps my nervous system.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Good. That's good to know. Thank you for sharing that.
yeah, it was done really eloquently, and with attunement as to like me going, what if I can't? What happens then? Yeah, I think that's the place of something I coach, which is speak your truth and let someone else be with their challenges. Let them deal with what's going to come up. And if you can be a good partner, and I think our friendship shows that, maybe pour some faith into that invitation so that someone can show up. Right? That's like really relational and really caring.
100%. Yeah. And what I would add to that, Fedesta, is that um, that begins with our relationship with ourselves. And one of the things that I've been working on in 2021, it was really my intention. I've been working on it for a long time throughout my life, but my words for 2021 are self trust and spirit trust, which are in kind of in and of the same thing. Um, so I find that as I bring that forward more in my life, and as I show up in trusting myself, it's easier for me to trust other people. I'm just like, and as the metaphor you use is, your side of the street and taking care of yourself. And it's really true, because I can't do that for you. I can't do that for anyone else. The only person that I can take care of and do is me, and trust that other people have themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, or watch when they don't, and also let them be with that experience,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
It's this place I notice, at least in relationships, any kind, where we often hold back because we don't trust that person's going to have themselves, or we've gotten really habitual about over responsibility, overreaching, over functioning to help someone, right? The rescue
Mm-hmm.
energy. And I think it's some of the hardest work people have to do. Like, feel your feelings, know what's true for you, now speak it. And whatever happens on that side of the street, don't be responsible for it. But maybe support if you can, right? If my partner, if I share something I want with him and it hits a few buttons, I know that's his work. And I can still be there to encourage and invite and reassure,
Mm-hmm.
right? Without rescuing, just keeping away from like the enabling, rescuing energy.
Yeah.
Well, I know you had quite a week,
I did.
and I'm curious if there's anything in there you want to be seen in or want to share with our audience.
Yeah, thank you. A couple things. So I would say the first thing is that, and I talked a little bit about this last week in the podcast, where I noticed some resistance with my mother. I noticed my own resistance with what was happening, and and made the conscious choice to let that energy go. And I can't say that I did it perfectly, because I didn't. I mean, there were times when I retracted a little bit and kind of, fell into my old ways. But I would say for the most part, I'm pretty clear that I was just like, if she's going to twist her body and hurt herself because she's reaching for something that is not serving her, and I could do it for her, and I'm not in any pain, and she doesn't let me do it, that's not about me. But I had to, like, I noticed what I was doing was, I was in my head, I was consciously and very effortful, is that a word, effortfully?
I like
Because
it.
it took a lot of effort on my, a lot of conscious effort on my part to remind myself that it's her choice. I'm right here, I'm within 5 feet, she could easily ask me, but she's making the conscious choice to do it herself. And so if that's the case, I'm going to back off. And so that was really helpful. I'll
Yeah,
say
because
that
what's
was,
the alternative?
what's the alternative, is frustration, and and vigilant concern, like, oh my god, like, I'm like, I will drive myself crazy if I do that. And so, and I didn't want to be in that space. I just didn't want to be in that space. So, pardon me. And then the other thing that I got really clear about was, there was a turning point where I could see that she was physically feeling better, and it was probably day 7 or 8, 6, 7, 8, right in there. And I was just like, huh, because I knew I was coming back home. Like, I knew that, I knew by the 10th I was coming back home. But I was just like, will I go back? And how soon will I go back? And this was also because I was letting her do more, but she was doing more. And I was just like, okay. And she seemed pretty stable on her feet. And I was very observant for those last couple of days, just to give myself peace of mind, because I thought, if something happens and I'm not here, you know, all that kind of all that emotional shit comes up. And I was just like, okay. So by the evening night 8, I knew that I was coming back. Like, I knew when I was coming back. And so I would say I didn't have any feelings of, oh my gosh, I'm leaving too soon. I was really clear, and because I'm hyper vigilant, which I shared, and she felt okay about me leaving. She was actually looking forward to me leaving.
She's like, namaste, bitches. Get out of here.
As much as I was looking forward to coming back, she was looking forward to her own independence, right?
Sure.
And I'm just like, okay, we're good. And so, and then when we said goodbye yesterday morning, she was very thankful for me helping her and coming and staying as long as I stayed and all that kind of stuff, which felt really wonderful. And then I also knew that within 24 hours, my brother, who is there now, was coming in. She would only have 24 hours solo. Um, so yeah, it was a very challenging and learning lesson in a different level of patience.
I like to call that character building.
Oh, yes. It was very character building. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and I mentioned this a little bit last time, caretaking has such emotional labor. I don't think the person who's being cared for realizes just how on alert, how high alert, how hyper vigilant from a place of care, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's almost like a stress response. It's nearly impossible to shut it off. And
Yeah.
kudos to you for being able to like ameliorate it a little bit and not be in like some kind of stress overdrive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But it's emotional labor, just that piece. And then, the piece I was naming before we got on was like, and then losing your equilibrium and your stability of like home, hearth, bed, ritual, the creature comforts,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's an added layer we often forget is actually happening.
Yeah.
We lose those things when we go on vacation, but we're on fucking vacation.
Right.
It's very
Right.
different to lose those resources while also in a stressful situation. I feel like there's a compounding effect to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful though. I'm glad
Yeah.
that there was Thanksgiving involved in your departure.
Yeah.
That feels good to me. Acknowledgement, appreciation, Thanksgiving for your efforts, like being
Mm-hmm.
seen that way.
Yeah.
Feels important.
It's really important. It's really important. Um and I know that she really does appreciate it because what's interesting to me, I don't even know if that's the right word, but it's almost like because she is so independent and really self-sufficient and used to doing everything herself, when people do things for her, it's almost like she doesn't feel she deserves it. She's just like, it's almost surprising to her. She's like, "Oh my god, you came, you showed up, you're doing this for me." And and I mean, which I on one hand I get because she's my mother, but on the other hand I'm like, well, of course. Like there's no question that I would, not have shown up. Of course I'm doing this. So it's the whole, just the whole experience has been um character building.
Those fucking growth opportunities,
Yeah.
And I want to just even honor this place where, giving has a level of control. We can control what we're giving. And I often find receiving is hard for people. If they haven't practiced, if they haven't built that attitudinal muscle, there's no control in what you're going to receive.
Mm-hmm.
And it's humbling, right? Like in a really earnest, sincere way. It's humbling. And so I feel like there's something reparative and healing there for your mom to see people flocking to care for her, to show up for her, in a state where she can't not receive.
Right.
She can't push it away.
Right.
And to maybe feel, even if it's a trickle, like allow some of that love in.
I hope.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
It's an invitation. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
feels
Yeah.
kind of quiet and seismic to me.
It feels that way.
Like there's more to unfurl and unfold in that realm.
Mm-hmm.
It's still unfolding in a way.
Mm-hmm.
The relationships and the healing that's available. Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
special for sharing.
Yeah. Yeah. And to seize those opportunities, because I have to say, going into it, I didn't really think about that aspect of it.
Sure.
And as the 10 days were unfolding and things were getting a little bit easier, I was just like, oh, yeah, here we are, mother and daughter, and it's sweet, it's challenging, it's salty, it's all of this stuff. And
Salty. I love that.
and I still love her, and I still love her. Um and we had our own little kind of routine, like she would let me sleep in the morning, and even I really wasn't, because I don't know that I slept like really soundly because my phone was on the whole time in the event that she needed me anyway. So she would let me sleep a little bit later in the morning, and then I would go downstairs and check on her and just to ask her how her night, well, and all that thing. And then we would have meals together, or she would just sit with me if I was eating whatever. And then at the end of the day, she watches Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune.
Blast from the past. Oh my God.
So I would sit with her between 7 and 8, and we would watch those two game shows. And then she went to bed and she read and did her puzzle book and that kind of thing. And yeah, so it was sweet to have kind of like a routine, if you will. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah. The one thing that's coming up for me is sort of in those exceptional situations,
Mm-hmm.
we can figure out how to do a relationship with someone that might be challenging.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what if we could bring that in on a normal day?
Yeah.
Like the higher will, you know what I mean? The
Yeah.
higher will of, okay, we're in this together. How do we do this? That doesn't have to be crisis or emergency or triage.
Right.
I think that's where we, as our human spirit, does show up
Mm-hmm.
for those crises. But like, what about on a normal day? Can we just be like, okay, it's you and me. How do we do this?
Yeah.
That's what I would love to see in the world.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you for asking and following up about that.
Yeah, thank you for bringing it.
Yeah. So I know Honey's birthday was over the weekend,
It
and
was.
so I'm curious how it was and what you did. And
It was really sweet. You know, I so enjoyed kind of, I call it like collecting nuts, you know, collecting little gifts for him. I enjoy gift giving. I enjoy the playfulness and the thoughtfulness that goes into like, oh, you know, what would he like? Or what's something I could surprise him with? So that pregame was already fun for me. Of like, for the last 2 or 3 weeks, thinking of like cool things that might bring a smile to his face, or might just be, you know, super practical things he needs, you know. And yeah, I really felt more deeply in my heart the like celebrating him energy, just having lived with him for this year, and you know the challenges, the ups and downs, the negotiations of partnership, and just how much he tends to our world. Like I was really feeling that. Whether it's watering the plants or making pesto for like a pizza at lunch, or ensuring I get snuggles in the morning because I'm not happy without them. Um, Even if that means like he's gonna row at 6:30 in the morning and snuggles are at 6 instead of 7, right? Like I'm still like, no, those are important. Like what time?
mhm.
Um, so just really feeling like not only to my bones, but I say to my marrow, celebration of this human that I get to, out of 8 billion humans, have this kind of fun, adventurous, crazy, beautiful relationship with. Um, yeah, I felt quite clear sighted and celebratory. And it's really cool he's able to receive that. I have to say, there's something super buzzkill when you want to celebrate someone and they can't receive it. It really pisses me off. Like, it's sort of like throwing something wonderful at someone and then blocking it. Yeah, it just feels icky. That's a word. And he's really able to receive like a card or presents or celebration. Or I put a little, this like little unicorn crown. I put it on his head because as a party hat, and he's like happy to wear it, happy to do whatever.
Oh.
You know, and just like the ease of the day. I think the older we get, it's not so important that we're like doing something super awesome and spectacular. And we went swimming in a lake, and we had dinner at a farm, and he spent the morning reflective and doing his tai chi, and it was like had a sweet little Zoom with one of his sisters and her family, and it was like the most meaningful because it was simple. That's what I'm getting as I'm growing younger, hopefully, is like how meaningful the simple pleasures are. And then Sunday we did go see a baseball game, which was a lot for me.
Yeah.
And I knew it would be a lot, but I didn't quite know how a lot. And it was worth it because he was in this joy place of, you know, I think his first baseball game was with his dad when he was like 8. So it's not just a game. There's like the sentimental lineage traditions. And it was his mom, his dad, and 2 of his nephews, which I think maybe 2 of his godsons. I'm not sure. And us. So it was, you know, high up, front row, overlooking a bunch of baseball players. I think for me, the auditory was the biggest issue. People screaming, cheering. The TVs, I would be really happy with old school baseball, like in a field, nothing digital, a game, and a picnic. I'm thinking like Dr. Quinn, Medicine Woman, you know, like baseball back then, how it originally was. There's something about all the pizzazz, all the advertisements, all the digital, all the noise, all the like, there's something digital telling people to clap. I'm kind of like, fuck you.
Yeah.
You know, like the sheepleness of it bugs me. And it's kind of cool to be plunked into a world I don't quite get. You know, that's character building too.
Yeah.
But I will probably take earplugs next time, just to be comfortable. Yeah, I'm kind of like, is everyone else in the stadium deaf? Because this is so obscenely loud, it's unreal to me. And just noticing the HSP quality of that.
Yeah.
New York City is pretty crowded.
Yeah.
Bronx on a Sunday is busy. There are way too many people and not enough parking spots and, you know, all that stuff. But I see the beauty of it. Like, I see the beauty of showing up with family to a ball game. It's also neat, I think, being someone that feels kind of like a foreigner, to show up to these like American traditions and kind of have this lens of curiosity versus like this is a given. Yeah, so it's a sweet weekend. Yeah, and I think just kind of allowing it to trickle into the week a little bit, just a more gentle, celebratory energy. Yeah, thanks for asking.
You're welcome.
It felt well spent, completely off the grid, and of course that makes Mondays a little harder to jump into, but it's worth it, totally.
Good. So I want to give a shout out to Jenny because she's, I think she's made 3 comments because I keep seeing these notifications. I'm like, Ginny Conan, go girl. Thank you. I don't know. I would have to go anyway. Anyway, so I'm excited that someone is watching and commenting.
Thanks,
That's exciting.
Amy. I love knowing you're with us. That's so sweet.
Yeah.
So you had shared something before the call around the Me Too movement and
Yeah. 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 So, um, I was sharing with Fidesta earlier that I watched a video and a YouTube video, and this it was entitled. I should have shared this earlier, or I should have shared this, whatever. So I watched it, and this woman, in so many words, was saying that she just felt that she felt that she wishes she would have shared her experience of her Me Too experience earlier than what she did. And I don't know exactly when when this video came out, but obviously it wasn't when the Me Too movement was really hot, which was a couple years ago when he who shall not be named was in office. And so anyway, and I just and I thought about this, and I just I'm aware that many people, and I'm just going to in general say that many people have judged women because we're the Me Too movement. Actually, that's not true. Men and women are in the Me Too movement, um, but have judged a lot of people who have talked about their experience well after the fact. And I have issue with that. And my issue is that I believe, and this is solely my belief, that when a person is ready to share the story, that is their time to share their story. And it doesn't mean that it's less important or that it's not true or any of that other stuff that people are saying. A person's story is validated. It needs to be validated whenever they decide to share it. And Um, I even have a family member. I remember when Matt Lauer, the morning Today Show news person, I don't know what his title was. Anyway, Matt Lauer, everyone knows who that is. And I'm assuming because he's white and he looks like every other white man in the world, I'm just going to say it. You can just put your shit on me. I don't care. But that's just, I'm just like, he looks like he's wearing a tie, he's nicely dressed, he's groomed, all that other stuff, right? And so I think people in general, they look at someone who's dressed nicely, who is white, and they have this assumption. They're like, oh, he's a good person. He wouldn't do that stuff. And then when he was outed by the woman who outed him, um, I had a family member who said, so why did it take so long? Why did it take? And I said to this family member, what does it matter why it took so long? It took as long as it takes. And she might have been feeling brave enough to share her story after someone else shared their story. And that's okay, because one of the things, and I feel like I'm going to digress a little bit, but then I'll come back because I always do. Um, in Marianne Williamson's famous quote, um, which was read by, oh my God, uh, starts with an N, Africa. He was in jail. Oh my God, help me.
Nelson Mandela.
Yes, Nelson Mandela. So Nelson Mandela, during one of his speeches, he quoted Marianne. I don't know if you know this, but a lot of people think a lot of people think it's Nelson Mandela's quote, and it's not, it's Marianne's. But anyway, so Marianne's quote, which is about when we shine our light, we give other people permission to shine theirs to do the same. And what I want to say about that is when we share our truth, whatever our truth is, when we blow the whistle, whatever the whistle is, we give other people permission, which means courage to do the same thing. So it doesn't matter what your truth is. It doesn't matter what your story. I mean, yes, it matters, but if you choose to say it whenever you're ready to say it, that is okay. And so, whoever's listening right now, I just want to say to you that we all have secrets, we all have things that we're hanging on to for whatever reason. If it's shame, if it's, oh my God, what would they, well, it doesn't matter what the reason is. If you want to hang on to it until you die, that's okay too. But if you do find yourself in a place where you're like, I'm feeling courage, I want to share this, I'm feeling a little bit more courageous today, maybe tomorrow I'll be ready to share it, that's okay too. I will support you and I will believe you. And uh, yeah, just because someone's white and in a tie doesn't mean shit as far as I'm concerned. Just doesn't. So that's kind of where that's. I feel like I'm like I'm ready to step off my soapbox, but I really feel that. And then the same thing with Bill Gates, and so I'm going to get shot off the internet. I don't give a shit. But anyway, but Bill Gates, he looks like a nerd. He wears glasses. He's white. He wears these sweaters. He does. He looks like a nerd, and he is a nerd, right? But he's also having a lot of regrets about being friendly with Jeff Epstein. And then, the situation with his wife and the divorce and everything. And I'm just like, ooh. And I mean, I can't tell you how many people I have heard who have been like, not Bill Gates. And I'm like, yes, just because he's white and he looks like that doesn't mean he doesn't have, everyone has skeletons in their closet. Everybody. Nobody is perfect. And I'm so tired of, I would just say Americans, saying this kind of stuff. I'm just like, come on, people. We're smarter than this. Anyway, I feel like I've been on a soapbox. But
No,
yeah.
I appreciate you for naming that for everyone in their own time, they are still valid in sharing their truth. I mean, two things come up for me, which I've shared with you, at least one of them, which is, when you're at the top of the food chain, it's called the patriarchy, just to make it easy, you have no fucking idea someone's trauma response as a victim if you have never been a victim. So I find it really absurd that those people are self-referential about, like, well, I would do it this way, or I would have said it sooner, or I would have reported it to the police. And it's like, you have no point of reference, zero, because you have lived at the top of the food chain since your first diaper. So you can't possibly know what it's like to be obliterated on the inside, to feel diminished, to feel scared, to feel at risk, unsafe, all those things that I think anyone, and victim's probably not the ideal word, but anyone who's had a crime perpetuated against them might feel. So, like, you're not even in the arena. Like, it's a moot point, in my opinion, when people say that, unless they've been in the arena. And I think anyone who has, male or female or trans or, whatever, like, have experienced something that puts them in kinship with the Me Too movement, they understand why there might have been silence for years. They understand that perhaps that trauma couldn't be touched for decades. They understand, hopefully, that, the courage comes with the healing. And if the healing hasn't come yet, it's not going to be spoken or broadcast. And so that's one piece I'm holding. Like, if you are privileged and celebrated and taking advantage of the patriarchy, you have no reference point here for the people who are getting hurt by it. So, maybe consider some compassionate curiosity if you're that person. And then the second piece is this whole pedestaling. Like, this person somehow now a magical fucking unicorn? Really? Just because they're successful or white or wear a tie or whatever, celebrities I'm thinking of, right? Versus We all have our shadows, we all have our strategies, we all have places where we are not in integrity with our aspirational characters. And how cool would it be if everyone just named that? You know, like I sometimes slam doors when I'm upset at my partner. I'm not proud of it. I'm working on it. But sometimes, like that door slam of like the physical tension in my body from the nervous system being in conflict feels really good. You know, doesn't mean I'm not a good relationship coach, but it does mean like I'm stumbling along and learning as well. You know, so it's like, what if we all just dropped off our own pedestals so that people got to realize, get this feeling of like no one's levitating under a Bodhi tree, no one's arrived, no one's in like total Buddha consciousness. We're all both human spirit and human animal every day, doing our best, learning hopefully from each other. And I don't know, just the realness of that would make me really happy in our society. And actually, beyond happy, I would feel more trusting if people showed up with all of that.
Yeah.
The whole mess.
Yeah.
You know, the philanthropy and the kindness and the compassion and the wisdom and the like screwy stuff.
Yeah.
Right? There's almost like the shadow of pedestaling is like then we don't feel good enough. So I'd rather be knocked off a pedestal and human with everyone else, like one of us versus one of them, so to speak.
Right.
That's my soapbox.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback a little bit on the honesty piece, like having more respect and feeling safer when someone's honest. So, I'm I'm a huge fan of Barack Obama. I was before he was elected, and I still am after. And I mean, of course, he's not perfect, but one of the things that he really worked hard at was owning owning his stuff and and apologizing. Like when he made a mistake, he apologized to the best of his ability, as opposed to, and this is the most fresh in my mind was when Clinton was in office and he had that affair with Monica, that whole thing, and he lied about it. Had he just come clean, I would have had way more respect had he been like, you know what, I really messed up and I am sorry, as opposed to the investigation and all I mean, it was just ridiculous. And I think to myself, we're wasting our time with these people. Like if there really was something important to, anyway. So for me, honesty, even though when it's hard to be honest and share the truth, because trust me, I know how hard that is because I've been in situations where I'm like, oh my god, I want to crawl out of my skin. But i would rather I would just rather buck up and be like, okay, this is what I did, and I am truly and sincerely sorry for what I did, as opposed to trying to hold on to a lie for even a day. Like it feels so, it feels so foreign to me when to be holding on to a lie, because and I have a horrible memory, so I can't even remember. I suck at I
Well,
really
you're wise to know it's also an energy leak.
it is, yes, yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to say that about honesty and truth, and yeah.
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 And it's tricky, right? Because we have our truth and then we have to find a way to deliver it in a way that can land without blame and not fall on reactionary ears. And it's
Yeah,
effort. It's real
it
effort
is.
to consider another in that truth telling,
Yeah.
or to clean it up afterwards if it goes sideways.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Endlessly fascinating, this human existence.
It really is.
I mean, I don't even know how I get work done because just to be like, wow, all of this is happening in real time with people in relationship while holding like the cosmos and the climate change and the fact that we're in these bodies like as these like little soulful spirits, like all of it feels like a lot. And the fact that we get anything else done is amazing to me. Because I
True.
could go down a rabbit hole about all that stuff.
Me too. Me too. Yeah. Yeah. It's easy to get caught in that spiral. I'm just like, and there are times when I'm like, okay, there I go. I don't even try to fight it. I'm like, okay, I'm in the hole, and I'm gonna hang out here for a while because it's what I need. It's what I need to do for the moment. But yeah, but to not get caught and stuck in it, that takes effort too. Like we've talked about effort a few times tonight. Yeah.
I schedule
Um.
it though. Sometimes I do want to just wander and be fascinated with life, and I can't do that every day because I want to,
Yeah.
serve and impact and grow. But I like putting in time, even if it's on the weekend, to like just allow for the esoteric, philosophical, shaman, mystic, intuitive um, fascination of life. I don't necessarily want to lose that.
No.
You know, it feels important to stay connected to the awe and the wonder of this life while doing, the laundry.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like that is something. Staying connected to the awe is something that sustains me and keeps me. I would say it also keeps me moving forward. Um, because when I go to these places, either in a reading or something I'm listening to, or just in my own head, I go, what is happening? It's like that feeling of, oh my God, what is happening? How did I get here? And in a good way, like, I can't believe I'm experiencing this. This is so incredible. And I'm washing the dishes, and I'm peeling a potato, and I'm doing, it's, yeah, it is. It's all, I would say it's encompassing at times and fascinating at the same time. Um, but to be able to share that with other people who really get it, that's just delicious for me. It's really delicious. Yeah.
I'm noting right now we're getting like thunder rumbles outside and the
Oh,
wind's picking up and there's kind of a electric quality to the squall. I kept seeing like little light flashes. I thought maybe it was a cop car or something, but it's lightning. And
oh,
it's just like, wow, like I'm this little small speck in the universe, and then Mama Guy is doing her thing, and like, holy shit,
yeah,
I get to be here for it.
yeah, yeah.
Mm.
Like, when I think about, you were just talking about like how you are in the universe. Like when I think about myself in the scheme of the universe, I'm like, I'm tinier than a grand of sand. Like, what? But really, like, that's what we are as human beings. And like when I think about that perspective,
Yeah.
it's pretty. Oh, I can hear the thunder. I love it. It's pretty awesome, to think about. Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm bigger than life, but in the scheme of the universe, I'm like, yeah, I'm tinier than a piece of, if I had yeah, a granula of sand. Yeah, that's just, it's really something.
I enjoy holding both, right? Like how vast and shimmery and big I feel as a spirit, and then how small I am
Yeah,
as a particle in this whole universal thing.
yeah,
It's fun.
yeah. It is.
Who needs substances? Like, just think about that for a little while. It's really fun.
Yeah, yeah. So I've been wanting to ask you. I think you were kicking off a workshop a couple weeks ago, and I haven't. talk to you about it. So I was just curious, yeah, how it's going, or
We are reinventing it. Like we didn't get the numbers we wanted, and I think a Tuesday morning was not suitable for people to go deep into emotional work.
mm-hmm.
Really makes sense. So we're pushing it to the end of October, and
Mm.
possibly on the weekend. Though we both have resistance about giving up our weekends. So finding another day and time and season to try again. And what's been really lovely is like all the infrastructure's in place.
Yeah,
So all the decision making that took so many weeks is done. And it's a little bit of like we knew midsummer on a weekday would be a hard sell. And we
yeah.
built it.
Mm.
So it's built.
Mm-hmm.
And what's really fun with that is like when the end of October comes, and I think fall and the fact that it gets darker earlier and people I know I go a little more inward naturally then.
Mm-hmm.
That we're gonna try to re-invite for that.
Oh, good,
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
Thanks for asking. I'm
yeah,
excited to teach that work, and I'm also quite happy to have the summer not when we begin
yeah,
a workshop series.
yeah. I hear that. Yeah, summer's a tough time for those kinds of things because people. I mean, when the sun's out and it's hot and it's hard to. I will speak for myself. It's hard for me to wrap my head around wanting to, like you said, dive deep on a Tuesday morning. That would be really challenging
I
for
mean,
me.
hey, as a facilitator, like I still want to frolic. It's still summer, so
Yeah.
I even know for myself where I have the juice in teaching this stuff. I actually don't want to do it in the summer. I'm still playing.
Yeah.
So divine right timing, trusting. The second reiteration will be more timely, and it's just fun to prototype. It's fun to even dream up a workshop with a friend, and yeah, I feel like I'll be better prepared in a lot of ways.
Hmm. Good. Yeah, I think that sounds. October's a. It's a good time. Fall's a good time. Yeah.
And then at least people will have a little bit of prep before they go into whatever holiday shenanigans they go into to know how to do some relational stuff.
Right.
If those weeks will be off, but they won't be off, wow.
Hmm.
It's like if I'm getting flashes, it's from the lightning.
Okay.
So,
Yeah. There it is again. That thunder. Wow.
it's upon us. It definitely looks like it's here.
Yeah, we had ours. We had a pretty decent storm last night here. So yeah. Um,
Hmm.
yeah. So was there anything else that you wanted to chat about or bring up or?
Hmm. I think for me, one thing that's up really big is learning how to pace my passions, right? I don't have a huge sense of time. I'm noticing as a visionary. It's like, oh, I want to do a photography art gallery. Oh, I want to make a record. Oh, I want to do couples coaching, and oh, I want to mentor coaches in training and do a workshop and go to Bermuda and get my folks to go to Hawaii and like I don't have a sense of like maybe some of that's 3 years from now, kind of
Mhm.
owning that, and so trying to find a way to make decisions with a timeline instead of just being a total fairy that thinks it can all happen in the next month. It's a real growth edge for me to
Hmm.
pace my passions. Being multi passionate, it's not like this one thing. It's like there's all these things I want to do, and it's kind of my living so fully and enthusiastically. But then the shadow of that is thinking it all has to happen tomorrow.
Mm.
So that's up for me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Do you know? So I have a follow-up question. Do you know what step 1A might look like?
Well, a friend of mine was saying, how about a Gantt chart, which I think they used a lot in creative design, which is where you literally are like, this is going to start now, then this will start later. Just just creating a timeline.
Mm.
It has me exercising a muscle I don't love, which is like, do we do this or do we do that? You know, when Honey says, "Do you want this or that?" on a date night, I'm like, yes, like I want it all.
Mm.
But the shadow of wanting it all is you can't do it all.
Right. Right.
And so, yeah, it's coming to terms with some fantasy thinking,
Mm-hmm.
and then being really realistic. Like, do I need to do a photography exhibit before the end of the year? That could be like year 3 stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a little bit of a young mind that wants it all,
Mm-hmm.
and then the mature adult that's like, hang on, what really needs to happen right now? You know.
Yeah.
So that's up for me. It's a growth opportunity to really
Yeah.
say no to things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like, okay, I want to keep coaching coaches. I want to do the couples coaching. I definitely want to get my business to be where I'm speaking and doing talks and workshops. That probably means I can't make a record this year. That probably means a photo exhibits later. That probably means a songwriting circles later. Like, learning to say not right now
Mm-hmm.
versus no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's my learning curve right now.
Yeah, I hear that. I can appreciate that and the challenge of it for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as someone who's like highly enthusiastic about everything,
Mm-hmm.
there's a little bit of like reality to that. You could
For
do it all, but you're not going to do it all well, so that's not fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Rushing any of it doesn't mean you get to feel all the joy of it, so that's not fun. Yeah, so there's a lot of effortful conversations in my head around this.
Got it. I can really appreciate that.
Changing a really long-standing habit
Mm-hmm.
of doing it all, but then doing it all piecemeal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Instead of being able to go really deep in things.
Yeah.
So it's a gift. It's a gift I'm giving myself to pace it.
Mm-hmm.
So funny because I keep seeing like lightning flashing on my face.
I'm seeing it too. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Oh.
Thank you, my friend. I'm looking at the time and realizing we've floated yet again.
Yeah, we floated a little bit. I better plug in before I lose you. Let me plug in here. Yeah.
You have a chat pack?
I have 2 chat packs. Yeah. So, what is the worst weather event you've ever personally experienced? And if you don't have one yet, I'm ready with one.
I mean, I think it's been here in New York, like some really scary kind of storms, hurricaney, the edges of hurricanes. But I can't say that I've really had any helter skelter, scary weather.
Mm-hmm.
No time where I didn't feel safe still.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. How about you?
So this was back in 90. It was one of my sister's weddings because they were 2 years apart. They were both on Thanksgiving weekend. And I was flying back from Phoenix to Philly, and we almost didn't, and my layover was in Chicago. We almost didn't leave Chicago because there was a really bad storm. But they pushed it, like we left. And I have never, and since then it hasn't happened, but I have never been on a flight like that with that kind of storm. We were literally, we were literally up and down and up and down so badly that, and I have a pretty strong stomach, but I vomited on the plane. I couldn't get out of we had to stay seated. It was awful. I was just like, I can't even believe this is happening. It was terrible. Yeah. Thankfully, it hasn't happened since. All right. Um, who is the best teacher slash instructor you've ever had, or the best boss?
I think I could actually put them together. Um, yeah, I would have to say Marianne Williamson.
Mm,
I think as someone who I got to have a really close, like work from her house level of candor and visibility,
mm,
right? It's not like, oh, this person's coming to the office and they might be on. This was like entering someone's home and working from there, and seeing like how she parents, seeing how she coaches, seeing how she chooses to learn. And then I think the most phenomenal part to me for someone of that stature and that nature was that I'd be, as a HSP, really irked in the main living room, dining room, kitchen area with all the other staff. And I was like, I'm not doing well here. Like, I need quiet, I
mm,
need focus. And she'd be like, go into my office, right? Just the humility of like, you're working for me, you're not able to work here. Go into my office space, which is where she writes her books. Close the door, do your thing. And I think the moment I learned from the most, which I don't think was her intentionally teaching a teaching moment, was I was, working on fundraisers for her on her congressional campaign, and she walked in with a cup of coffee. Super simple, nothing like, no fanfare, but she thought to come in and bring me a cup of coffee. She was my boss.
wow.
And that was like the first time I was treated with that kind of care as an employee. It made a really big impact on me. And then, of course, going to every house party and fundraiser with her and hearing her speak.
Mm,
And beyond her amazing eloquence as a speaker, how she could connect to anyone, even people who had a different, I mean, these house parties had sometimes like Republicans in there who were listening to see who this particular
mhm,
congressional candidate was. It didn't matter that they had differing views. She could meet them somehow, which was incredible. And I think I've shared with you, I was bitching and moaning about something, probably relational at the time. And she just looked at me and she's like, well, something that's missing might be something you're not given. And I was like, oh, damn, you're right. Right? It was just like off the cuff, like nonchalant, like on the way back into the other room. And to be like, wow, something that I think is missing from my situation might just be that I'm actually not giving it versus just expecting it from the other person. And that has continued to be how I model. When
mm,
I actually need something and want something, instead of trying to pull it out of someone, I model it. I
mhm.
give it.
Wow.
That stayed with me for easily almost a decade.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's pretty potent.
Kind of fun to work for a firecracker like that.
I can only imagine.
And to be like, I think I was in my early 30s, so like to even just get that download and transmission from someone older and
Yeah.
who embodies like a fierce love that might not make sense to the systems and powers that be,
Mhm,
but that really embodies like a ferocious, protective, loving energy.
mhm. Wow.
And I'm going to mute myself because there's so much thunder going on. What about
Yeah.
you? Who has been your
Um,
teacher and
well, I would
boss?
say so I had a college professor And I mean, I had many college professors, but my one college professor that I had for collection, because I was a fashion design major. I don't know if you know that about me. So when I did my first collection, I it's just sort of fascinating. I created this maternity collection, and I used two different fabrics. And the over fabric that I really wanted to use was organza, but I was too afraid to use organza because it's so delicate. And so I opted for something else. And during my critique, and she had a design, like an actual designer from New York, come to help to critique our collections, which was really awesome and helpful. And he said the exact same thing that she said. He was like, I like your collection. I would have liked to have seen it using. And I was just like, oh my God. And I that the reason that has stayed with me is because, like, every time I think about, okay, I'm afraid to use, I'm afraid to do, I'm afraid, I'm like, what's the worst, like, what's the worst that can happen, Heidi? You know? And so what if it's delicate? So what if it's crunch? Like, it doesn't have to be perfect, but at least, if I would have at least tried. So anyway, so I would say my lesson from that is to not have regrets about trying something that's hard. Um, yeah. So that was big. And then I had a lit teacher in 11th grade, 11th or 12th grade, and her name was Mrs. Jones. And I think the reason that she made such an impact on me is because I felt really seen by her, and I felt like she really got me. And when I did a paper on a book that we were reading, because we read many books in this lit class, when I did a paper, um, if I was having an issue trying to get my point, like, she would say to me, "I think this is what you're trying to say, right?" And I was like, "Yes." And she's like, "So let's let's find a different." Like, the way she articulated and supported me was so helpful. And again, I really felt like, of all the teachers that I had in high school, she got me the most, and that meant a lot to me. Just to be seen as this 16-year-old kid, and yeah, it was very meaningful. Yeah.
I love that. I love that one teacher can bring so much or such thoughts back to us.
Yeah.
It was reminding me of my teachers in student council, the Johnsons, who, I had this affinity. I could see where things weren't streamlined well. I've always had that. It's why I've been able to do ops for companies, of coming in and being like, that's a shit show and that's too much. And why is that connected to that? And no, like, there's a more efficient way to place the puzzle pieces. And I remember Mrs. Johnson one day saying, well, you could complain about it, or you could get into government and solve some of it. And it was the first time I think I was challenged by a teacher, with, excuse me, with merit, like, you could do this. Sort of, again, like what we started with, like an invitation with encouragement, with reassurance. And what I basically heard was, like, you could continue bitching about this for the next 3 years, or you could show up and course correct some of it because you see it clearly. Like, and that was the start of, like, victim or author,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Complainer or leader. And I think that, like you said, at 16, to have someone speak to me like an adult and to tell it like it is and to not coddle, such a huge gift.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like the angsty goth kid campaigning in the same, role as, like, the celebrated basketball guy and the top cheerleader being like, I'm never gonna win. It's like, look, it's like two of the most popular kids, and yet apparently there's a whole lot of underdogs and outcasts in that audience when we gave our speeches, because I somehow miraculously walked into the main office and was told like I had been voted in. So even that was its own lesson. Like,
Yes.
there's a lot of people who don't feel like they belong to those popular crowds who want to make a difference.
Yeah.
For bringing up school teachers, that's really important.
Yeah. They have much more of an impact than I think we could possibly ever give them credit for. Yeah, they're so important. Yeah. Yeah. All right, my friend. Well, this is a wrap on episode 40 of Cocktails and Pajamas. Woo!
Yay!
Oh, this is so exciting. Thank you all for joining us. And the last few weeks, Fadesta and I have been talking about getting, what's the word?
Sponsorship.
Getting sponsorship. So if anyone is watching and they want to sponsor or have a connection to someone who could sponsor, please give us a shout out. Let us know. We would love that. And we will see you all next week.
Yay!